About 3 years ago to the day, I started getting involved with the East Troublesome Fire. Really didn't know how this thing was going to unfold, but looking back on it, it's been an exceptional experience working with Northern and Grand County. And I think we can hold our heads up high, realizing that we accomplished something good here.
There is definitely some revegetation of the watershed. We are seeing a dissipation of the blackwater events and the ash response post-fire, which was very acute the first couple of years. This third season, we didn't see as much of it. We are seeing this year less debris flow events in the Willow Creek watershed, which is a watershed where we did a lot of work. There's a broad scope of projects that were covered under the post-fire watershed recovery work that we've been doing over the last 3 years.
And the various projects that were implemented via Grand County or Northern Water, I think they've made a positive impact on the natural resources and also on people's lives.
We worked with about 400 landowners. I hope we added benefit. I hope we were able to help people out, because in the end, that's the best thing we can do.
Those few weeks after, when you were looking at the devastation, you thought this will never come back. We thought we were done ranching. So for us, it's been amazing how we've recovered from this thing. I just want to say that everybody who was involved was amazing. They worked so hard. It's been a good experience in the end.
From the get-go, I think everybody realized this was going to be a heavy lift.
In Grand County, much of our hill-holding vegetation burned down, and even subterranean roots were burned out. And so when the rains come, there's nothing to hold what had formerly been soil and is now just minerals and ash. It'll just slide the whole hill down.
With the post-fire runoff that is coming from the East Troublesome burn scar, it enters directly our collection system. The Colorado Big Thompson project is an essential component of the water supply. It provides water from the headwaters of the Colorado River and brings it over to the Front Range. We have over 1 million people that depend on this water supply for drinking water, as well as over 600,000 acres of irrigated land that get their water from the system as well. So it's really significant.
The Emergency Watershed Protection Program is managed by Natural Resources Conservation Service, and it is a program that is provided to different sponsors to help alleviate the effects of a natural disaster. And the primary objectives of EWP are to reduce erosion, reduce sedimentation, and reduce the threat of future flooding to life and property on private land, and everything runs through a sponsor.
When the agencies, Grand County and Northern, were approached by NRCS to consider sponsoring the post-fire watershed recovery work on private lands, the scale of the work that had to be done was overwhelming for everybody. So Northern Water agreed to take on the responsibility of sponsoring that work for all the watersheds that are upstream of the Colorado Big Thompson project and the Windy Gap project. And everything downstream of that point was covered by Grand County.
The Emergency Watershed Protection Program that Grand County and Northern were able to sponsor was huge for protecting life and property on private lands.
Now, our fire recovery projects really have multiple benefits. We're able to protect infrastructure, protect private properties, keep things safe within Grand County. We're also protecting the water supply. We reduce sedimentation into our collections reservoirs. We reestablish riparian vegetation and wetland vegetation along streams, which in turn has a beneficial impact on water quality.
We started EWP project implementation in the summer of 2021 after we entered into the agreement.
Match funds were provided by the Colorado Water Conservation Board.
We put in debris booms, removed debris,
flood protection projects that were done. There was a lot of bank erosion protection, so a lot of boulders, hardening of the banks so that when there's a lot of water coming down, it's protected from excessive erosion and transport of sediment management projects.
We installed berms to protect habitation. We were able to widen channels to accommodate the bulked flows.
And then we also coupled that work for a couple of years with fairly extensive mulching of the watersheds.
In 2021, we worked with the NRCS Emergency Watershed Protection Program to implement aerial mulching in prioritized areas of the East Troublesome Burn area. We mulched about 2,300 acres of private lands and about 2,300 acres of U.S. Forest Service lands. In 2022, we mulched about 7,000 acres of federal land via a U.S. Forest Service participating agreement and a cooperating agreement with the BLM.
Upsizing culverts, protecting roads, protecting sewer plants, you're protecting people's houses from uncontrolled flows from post-fire conditions.
We saw a lot of debris flow events that led to road closures.
The Highway 125 work was a unique situation when Northern Water was positioned to mobilize contractors quickly to aid CDOT after significant storm events caused a great amount of sediment to inundate the highway and close the highway. And that happened in 2021 and 2022.
All kinds of different projects, putting in rain gauges so that people who live in certain regions can dial into their particular rain gauge to receive alerts, timely alerts that let them get out of harm's way, hopefully before the debris flow or the potential for debris flow happens. So the EWP program was really helpful in all of those instances. When you're looking at a 200,000 acre fire and wondering what you do to recover from that, it's just mind-boggling, just being one person. There's no way, I think, that any one agency could do this on its own.
We have partnered with local entities like the Middle Park Water Conservation District, nonprofit organizations like the Three Lakes Watershed Association.
Very thankful for the partners that we worked with, including the NRCS, the U.S. Forest Service,
the Bureau of Land Management, U.S. Geological Survey, Colorado Water Conservation Board. We also had help from other parts of the state of Colorado, the Department of Agriculture, Public Safety, Natural Resources, and many other offices in the state of Colorado,
as well as many, many private landowners that we worked with.
It was a wonderful experience to partner with the people of Greene County. We worked with about 400 landowners. Roughly a third were landowners that we had to utilize for access, staging, locations. Approximately 2/3 of those were landowners that we ended up implementing projects on their lands.
So thinking back to actually this time of year, it'd be 3 years ago, it was burning all up above here. It scorched all the earth above the ditch. They said, well, this is just a mudslide waiting to happen. And your ditch is going to be full of mud and you won't be able to use it anymore. But the next summer, they did all kinds of things to prevent erosion on the hillsides above the ditch. And they did an amazing job. And literally in 3 years, 3 summers with rain and so forth and so on, we have had no mudslides, little tiny ones. The next big thing was flash flooding. Last winter, they came in and they put automated gates at the Stillwater drainage and the Supply Creek drainage, as well as on the North Fork. And with those automatic gates, I was able to now control the water so that when we did have a flash flood event, I could actually shut the ditch down and divert the water into its natural drainage instead of having it come down the ditch and do all kinds of harm. And that was huge.
Sea Lazy U is an 8,500 acre guest ranch established in 1919. The fire burned approximately 80% of the ranch. We had a lot of erosion, mudslides, sedimentation. Our irrigation ditches started filling with sediment from the river. They worked with us on constructing a berm around our wastewater facility and the north edge of the ranch to protect us from flooding, which post-fire was more extreme than we'd seen in the past. If they hadn't have constructed this berm for us, our wastewater plant would surely have been submerged and the ranch would be shut down. The riprap in the valleys and the drainages is certainly helping control and slow down the sediment moving down valley. It's been very effective what it's designed to do, slowing down the waters.
So at this point, we are complete with our EWP agreement. We just received the final closeout from the NRCS that we have met all the requirements of the program. Many of the projects, it's too early to really tell what the overall effect was. We're looking at that and we'll continue to monitor that. The flood mitigation projects, such as the road crossings, we got to see them as the next rain event came after implementation, how they operated, how they worked, and how they helped. The stream degradation, stream bank stabilization, we also have got to see those work. Our commitment going forward now is just limited to the operation and maintenance of the projects that we committed to maintaining for a period of years going forward.
We haven't seen water quality impacts to the water treatment plants that are taking water out of the system. The acute response in terms of water quality has been observed on the West Slope. We are very actively monitoring water quality throughout the system, both district sampling that we've increased relative to what we normally do as part of our baseline monitoring, and we also have a lot of real-time monitoring that we have put in place. And now we're moving into a little bit different phase of the work that is more focused on Forest Service land. The Forest Service has flown the fire and their sense is that about half of the burn scar is not coming back. So that's concerning.
We will complete our watershed assessment of river stability and sediment supply. And this assessment will really act like a roadmap for us, where we have impaired streams, areas that really need stream restoration, stream stabilization.
Post-fire watershed restoration is in the $50 million ballpark right now, and it's continuing to grow. We have estimated collectively that for the East Troublesome Fire, the Cameron Peak Fire, and the Williams Fork Fire, there's a need for $228 million of restoration to be done. And we have received so far a little bit over $100 million from the Forest Service, but there will be a need for additional funding to complete the work that needs to be done.
There's a lot that remains to be done, so we'll have to keep working together on that. 3 years ago, none of us knew the first thing about how to recover from a wildfire, and so this has been a huge educational curve.
Were we successful in every case of helping everyone? No, I don't think it's possible. I think it's common in these type of processes and programs. It's difficult to implement things in a hurry. It's difficult to go to construction on civil projects in a matter of weeks or months. But I think we tried our best to help as many people as we could.
3 years later, from the 2020 fires, we're pretty much wrapped up everything we set out to do via EWP to address the issues from the 2020 fire season. I can honestly say I'm glad it's over, but I can also honestly say I'm going to miss working with some very good people. From my standpoint as an NRCS employee, they raised the bar tremendously.
I am so thankful for all the people who worked with us, and a huge thank you to all the landowners. The benefit of the project is not necessarily on the property where it was constructed. It takes a special person to be willing to allow their land to be utilized to help the greater good. It says a lot about the people of Grand County.
We thought it was going to be 180 degrees in a different direction. As it turns out, we've modernized a little bit and met a lot of neat people and some new contacts, and you know, through adversity you get stronger and you get better, and that's kind of the way I look at it.